Money Vikings. We're going to go on a little walk right now and talk again about the housing market because things are not looking too good in a lot of ways. And I think we are either headed for some kind of crash, but my gut doesn't say that. I would say there's other options, and I think another one is a long slog. I think that might be the way to put it, because nobody really knows what to do, and nobody knows where to go, and everybody's kind of stuck. And I'm going to talk about why. So I'm gonna not include discussion about, the kind of the one percenters. I'm not going to go into the market when you're talking about super expensive, 3-4 million and up homes. That kind of market, either that's old money or that's just a different sort of thing. I'm going to talk about the middle class. So I want to talk about middle class sort of situation, and that'll range from lower middle class to upper middle class. And that's where I think everybody's pretty well stuck at the moment. Why? So the first obvious one, well, the first thing to talk about is how wacky things got with the pandemic, right? So in so many markets, you essentially had values double in a couple of years. And that's just not normal. And it certainly wasn't sustainable. So now those prices are kind of sticky and high because, when people see their real estate sell, or when they see others sell real estate for double, what it was worth a couple of years ago or what they paid. And what happens is that they get that number in their mind, so they get stuck. So I'm kind of seeing it a little bit right now. You have some houses on the market that, maybe you're seeing prices drop. You're seeing, they're asking 1.9 million, but then it's like, oh, how about 1.6, right? Okay. So it's just there's a psychological thing there, and definitely a downward pressure on the prices going on there. So pandemic wasn't normal, was not normal. So much money infused into the system, so much cheap money at 2.5-3%. That's basically free money. So just giving free money is pretty wild right there. So that's number one. I'm going to go up and down this hill. Number two is interest rates. So interest rates, what's shocking right now is that 7.4% or whatever it is right now is not a historically abnormal number, but it's shocking to the system after 8, 9, 10 plus years of 3%. And I saw a chart today. The difference in affordability is really remarkable. So do a little research on that, because you'll see what a homeowner could afford a few years ago at a 3% versus now. And the monthly bill is really, really a huge difference. And it shaved something like off of an average home in the US. And you look at averages across the US, which vary greatly. But I think if you look at averages, it shaved like $75,000 to $100,000 off in affordability. So let's just say at a certain interest rate, if a family making a certain amount could afford a $500,000 house or a $600,000 house, they essentially now can only afford a $400,000 or a $500,000. So that's a pretty big difference right there. So interest rates, clear. The reason I'm advocating for a slog is really basic. It has to do with supply and demand. And I'm getting my workout going up this hill. Okay, so supply and demand is a huge issue. And what I mean by that is clearly not enough supply. And there is demand and the main reason is really about demographics. Talked about it before in an earlier post where, people have been talking about about housing crashing for a while. And it seems like a downward slog, because millennials It's a huge generation, and they are literally over the next 15 years, they're in the prime real estate buying mode. That generation, they were the young ones before. They're not anymore. They're turning 40, and they're like, I want to say, I don't know, they're somewhere maybe 30 to 40. So they're in their prime years of family formation. You're not going to live in the downtown apartment next to the bars when you're trying to start a family, right? It just doesn't work that way. So that's a big deal right there. Supply and demand. On the supply side, there just isn't enough. The system of building homes is just it's onerous and it's cumbersome and it's expensive. I have a friend who's just trying to build like a ADU on his property, accessory dwelling unit on his property, and I think his dad's a developer, and they're having a hard time getting through all the permitting and all that. So that's just, I know it's anecdotal, but you get the idea. So there's not going to be an ability to build fast enough, and all that. And municipalities are going to have to work hard to, build out the infrastructure. I mean, you can't just rely on building homes. There has to be the infrastructure with it. So that's part of it. The third thing I want to talk about that a lot of people don't talk about as much is natural disasters and insurance. So there's a major issue right now with insuring homes in many parts of the country. And so you might be in an inexpensive market, but is it prone to natural disasters? Are natural disasters coming, and are they going to be intensifying and getting worse? It's going to be very hard to insure a home in a lot of these areas. If you're close to areas where there's a great chance of fires or hurricane or flooding. I mean, look at what happened this summer. Look at Maui, right? Look at Lahaina. So we're in an era now where, real estate is a physical thing, right? It's a physical thing that takes a lot of maintenance. And that's another point I'd like to hit on. It takes a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. So that's just going to be a big issue as well going forward, is insuring properties. So I don't know. There's a lot going on where I'm just going to call it a long slog. And sorry about the sun. Go backwards. I'm going to call it a long slog because there's just not an easy way out of this right now. So that's that. I think the other thing to mention is that, real estate is, as we've talked about a lot on this channel, is a tangible thing, right? And so it takes a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. So you also have the other issue of taxes. So you have maintenance, insurance, and taxes. So that all, you combine all that, and it's very hard for investors to make any sense out of what to do. And in fact, I think a lot of investors are starting to liquidate their assets. Now, the pendulum always swings, so this will change as well. But I just think in the foreseeable future, we have a long slog before investors come back and before there's a really healthy market. Maybe this is the design of the Fed, and maybe this is their goal. But I think they're being successful at crushing demand for housing and crushing kind of the housing market. It's unfortunate because housing leads to so many ancillary jobs. I've always said that the housing market is basically a great wealth builder all around, because think about, when people buy homes, how many people that employs, how many times are you going to Home Depot, to Lowe's? How many home improvements are you doing? You don't sit around a house and say, oh, it's perfect. Most people sit around their house and say, oh, I'd rather redo the bathroom. I want to retile this. I'd like to recarpet here. And then stuff just wears out. So it's really good in supporting growth in the economy and economic activity. So those are just a few reasons why I think housing is in trouble right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how things play out over the next year. I would just say, I'm just trying to hold on at the moment, and they say survive until 25. So hopefully things kind of smooth out and make a little more sense over the next year. But we will see, and we'll keep doing coverage of all that. So thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.